Hey everybody, John Kemper with Helena High Football, joined with head coach Dane Broadhead. And coach, I was talking with some of the volleyball players, and I said, hey, what's a question I should ask Coach Broadhead?
Oh boy.
Now they asked me to ask you a couple that I'm just not going to ask because it would just be very uncomfortable.
Fair.
But I thought a good one, and it's really popular right now, but do you have a favorite Taylor Swift song?
They asked me that the other day, and I don't know if I had one.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know any Taylor Smith?
Oh yeah.
Or Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah, I'd go see her. We were talking about that
I would too.
The other night. Yeah.
Looks like an incredible concert.
Yeah. I can't say I'm a Swiftie because I can't think of one song right now.
And you can't have two Swifties. You have Taylor Swift, but you have Ben Swift, and that's Swiftie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
so
he's the real Swiftie.
Definitely a Swiftie fan.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Yeah.
He's the man.
So no favorites, just like them all?
Oh, I don't know.
What about
Belong to Me or one of those good ones? Like some of her older stuff. I don't like her newer stuff.
So not Anti-Hero?
I don't even know which one that is.
Oh my gosh.
I'd have to
See, the old guy knew this.
Yeah, I'd definitely go see her though. It's like part of history, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, concerts, honestly, in about the past year, I've gotten really into. I've only gone to a few of them, but I've enjoyed them.
She'd be on the bucket list, man.
All right, you couldn't answer that one, so we'll ask the next one. How do you like your eggs prepared?
Ooh, that's tough. Are we having bacon with it?
Yeah, whatever you want.
Probably over easy then.
Yeah. Over easy, so you like a runny.
And I never liked them. Like growing up, I hated over easy eggs. It was always scrambled, but it's an acquired taste, I guess. Showing my age.
Well, and here's the benefit of an over easy egg. If you have high cholesterol, if you do over easy, the yolk kind of runs around, so you really don't eat all the yolk unless you slurp it up with a spoon or whatever,
piece of
or
bread,
a piece of toast.
Oh,
yeah,
heck yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Here's something talking about breakfast. Can you handle like eggs and bacon or the savory side of breakfast, mixing with like French toast or pancakes and getting the syrup into the bacon and eggs?
To a certain extent. Usually I like it on like two different plates.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah, but
I can't handle it.
If you don't have a second plate, then you just got to do it because you got to have both sides.
You do,
gotta have
but
the French toast or the pancakes. With it.
But you could just maybe eat the protein first and then come back.
That's usually what I'll do. Yeah.
And you can't reverse that. If you reverse it, then you still have, then you got to wash the plate.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard hitting stuff here, that's for sure.
Good. So, we're starting off with a bang. I love it.
When you were sick as a child, did you ever have to have soft boiled eggs?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, well, you're lucky.
I thought you just hard boiled them.
My grandma would make soft boiled eggs when I was sick, and I think it was just a test to see if I was actually sick. And they were awful.
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah. And I
like eggs, but that doesn't.
Yeah, no, soft boiled. It's basically like soup, egg soup.
Thanks. No thanks.
But all right, I'm sure you came here for breakfast stuff. We'll move to lunch.
We can talk breakfast all day.
Yeah, we could.
Breakfast is the meal of the day.
Yeah, it's the best.
Totally.
We'll do lunch next week maybe. But hey, we did not do a season preview, and we won't bother now because we're already a week in. But we can talk about the summer. You had ambush camp, and then of course 2-a-days and practices, and leading up to the game last Friday. How do you feel like this team has gotten ready for this season?
Yeah, I think they did a good job. We had a good off season. Camp was good. We went to Bozeman for team camp, and I felt like we grew a lot as a team and got better and got a lot of guys reps, and that kind of progressed into, like you said, ambush camp, and obviously we have the weight room stuff in between. And I felt like we were pretty well prepared. I felt our conditioning and, that side of it was pretty good for the most part. I mean, it's tough, it's hard to get into game shape until you start playing, and that showed a little bit, especially with as many guys as we play both ways. But I think the summer was good. I think our leaders did a good job getting guys in and involved, and I felt like we were in a pretty good position going into week one.
Did you feel like going into the summer and then getting into 2-a-days that you kind of had an idea of your starting lineup, your 2-deep roster, but then there's always those kids that surprise you during camp and they earn that playing time? But how do you feel about all that?
Yeah, that's always a work in progress. It's always changing. It's always evolving as we move guys around throughout the off season and maybe change positions on guys. And a lot of that is position driven and where we're at depth wise at certain spots. But you always have guys who surprise you, who show up and work their tails off in the off season and grow into that. And then you quite frankly have guys that go the other way that maybe fall off that you were anticipating to maybe get more time or push for more reps. And it kind of goes both ways, but it's fun to see that, evolution, if you will, of guys that are coming into it and battling for spots. And, that obviously plays a big role in where we're at now. But again, it's something that's, a lot of those spots are still, up for grabs, and we're rotating a lot of guys, and it truly comes down to them and how bad they want it and how bad they're going to work for it.
Something else noticed hanging out with the program a little bit. You have some new coaches on the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Allow you to take a few minutes here, introduce those new coaches that you have.
Yeah, so the two new guys we brought in this year, they're both O-line, D-line guys. It's Sean Bloomquist, which is obviously a name that, if people have been around Helena High football and Carroll football, or just, the city of Helena in general, they'll remember that name from a few years ago. He's, quite frankly, one of the best football players I ever had the chance to play with Bloomy playing linebacker at Carroll. And so really fired up to have him back. He's awesome, brings great energy to the program. He's a Helena High guy. He wants to give back. He works really well with our kids and does a tremendous job. And the other guy's a relatively unknown guy, that I didn't know going into it, but that's Adam Husk. He came to us via Huntley. He was in Huntley Project for 10 years. Him and his family moved over in June. His wife manages the Target store now, so very, very fortunate to have them. I knew he was probably a good guy for the job. Coach Armstrong called me, who's now the O-line coach at Fresno State, and vouched for him and said, "Hey, I got a guy moving to Helena that coached for me at Rocky, coached at Rocky for 5 or 6 years, played D-line there." And he goes, "This guy is just solid. He's great with the kids. He knows football, and he's exactly what he described him as. He's been fantastic." So another great addition to our staff.
And a great beard.
Great beard.
Really,
absolute great
really
beard. Those two are
beard.
the first two off the bus, too. They look good. They look like D-line coaches. They sound like D-line coaches.
Yeah, I was going to say with Bloomquist, though, he needs to hit the weight room. He's looking a little...
He's looking a little soft now that the season started. Yeah, I let him know that the other day.
Biceps the size of thighs.
Yeah, exactly.
He's huge.
Yeah.
But and then, of course, you brought back all your other coaches.
Yeah, everybody else is back on staff from last year. So, yeah, we're rocking and rolling.
So I don't think you knew this, but, we did a pregame interview with you on Friday, and the wind was so bad that we didn't get to hear any of it.
Oh, seriously?
So unfortunately, we didn't get to hear that. But one of the questions I asked you in that was the difference of being a first-year coach and then moving into a second-year coach. And the challenges you face in the first year, and then the adjustments and maybe the challenges that you didn't face the first year, but you faced this year.
Well, before we get there, I got to start with what I opened with there.
You don't have to.
Thank you for coming back. And I mean that for everybody out there listening in, social media land. It's awesome to have you back. So that was the one position in the offseason. I was like, man, how are we going to, seriously though, how are we going to replace Kemper? What are we going to do? Truly, you do so much for us and our program and behind the scenes, and everybody that sees our stuff online, it's you, because I don't even know I don't have an Instagram or any of that stuff. I don't even know how to log into that stuff. So we'd be
passwords, but
I probably lost them. They're on my phone somewhere. But truly, what you do for our program is pretty cool. So we're kind of happy to have you back. So, but anyways, to your question, probably the biggest thing, year 1 to year 2. Now I've had a full year. I've had a full calendar year to look at it, to look at some of the things that I did, that we're doing program-wise, and truly have an off-season to kind of, reevaluate where we're at, things that we did well, things that maybe we struggled with that we needed to address in the off-season. And so that's been nice, and it's been nice for me to have a little time to maybe step back and kind of reevaluate where I'm at as a head coach, and things that I need to do differently in terms of communication or whatever it may be, and how I'm managing the program. And so that's been nice, because you get the job and it's just a whirlwind, and we were in such a good spot. The program was left in such a great spot when Coach Evans left. But, it's been nice for me to have gone through it. There's no more surprises, really. I mean, stuff pops up every day that, you're dealing with and handling and taking care of and changing and whatnot. But it's been nice to me, because now, I've been through it. I'm probably more comfortable than I was maybe a year ago.
Well, one thing that was really impressive from last year, and then seeing it even more this year, is the buy-in. And there was buy-in, of course, with Coach Harnson and Coach Evans, big buy-in. When you get a new coach, maybe sometimes you wonder, will the players buy in? Last year, they bought in completely, just like they had in years past. And this year, no different, maybe even a little bit more. I'm not sure. Haven't necessarily been able to gauge that. But how nice is it to have the buy-in? And how much further along do you move when you have that buy-in and you can get into actual game scheming, plays, and everything? Yeah, that's been nice. We return a lot of kids that played last year, and I think, like you said, last year's group was pretty well bought in. That's just an expectation of our program. It's a lot. High school football is a lot. We ask a lot of these kids. I ask a lot of our coaches and everybody involved in the program. It's a big time commitment. I think our kids are, for the most part, pretty well bought in. And, like I said, with returning a lot of guys and having a lot of veterans back on both sides of the ball, it allows you to progress
faster. I think we're up to speed and have, probably we're able to do some things week one that maybe we couldn't do last year. Just simply we're just a little ahead of where we were in terms of install and like you mentioned from the scheme standpoint. So that makes it nice. It makes it fun for us as coaches, to add new wrinkles and be able to maybe put a little bit more on these kids' plates. And they've handled it really well for the most part.
So why don't we jump into the game on Friday, because it can
Sure.
lead to so many questions as far as what I would ask you normally. But obviously it was a 21-14 loss, a very close game.
Sure.
Game doesn't end, the game, 55 seconds, I think, or 46 seconds is when Bozeman scores
Right.
In the fourth quarter. You guys make an effort, really can't do it. Weird game to begin with because
Strange.
you have
Yeah.
almost hour-long rain delay.
Right.
And while we're sitting in the press box there, Jason Mergel and I are kind of spitballing, because all of this to say there were 2 seconds left in the first half when
Yeah.
they stopped the game. So we were wondering, are they going to allow this to be halftime or not? And so there was a real chance that we would have sat for an hour, came on the field, played 2 seconds, and then you guys would have went in for halftime. But it sounds like you and Coach Wesche talked about that. At least this is what the press box said, and just decided they'll just do the halftime then, do the 2 seconds, went right into the third quarter. But in that 45, 55 minutes of that lightning delay, like what are you, is that beneficial because you can talk to the kids more? Or does it hit a point where it's like, okay, this is way too much time?
Yeah, it was a little long, and I'm glad that we handled it the way we did. The officials did a good job. They had to go in and check to make sure that was like legal, I guess, first, to basically skip halftime, and they came back and said it was, and I think that was the best way to handle it. It was a different circumstance, kind of strange. Anytime you have a big delay like that, it just kind of kills the momentum of the game. And I really felt that in the third quarter. Neither team did much in the third quarter, and that kind of whizzed by, and you could kind of feel it. And honestly, yeah, it was a little too long. Guys start to stiffen up. You're stuck in a locker room, so there's really not much you can do in terms of getting them up and moving around. But yeah, we had plenty of time to meet offensively and defensively, and then it was just a matter of getting them back on the field and warming them up again and trying to get ready to go.
Yeah, it was very, very odd.
Yeah,
but that
strange,
first half,
for
of course,
sure.
you guys open the scoring, the big 77-yard touchdown. Manu
Right.
makes a great grab, almost over the kid's head, or pretty much over the kid's head. The defender was able to turn and go 77 for that touchdown. They scored with about 45 seconds or something left in the first half.
Yep.
That turned into like an hour on it. And then they scored again, and you guys were kind of playing catch up at that point. But you get a huge 50-yard run from Tevin Wetzel.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of both sides. Big plays were kind of the name of the game, neither offense. And we kind of knew that going in. We needed some big plays because we knew what they were returning on defense, 8 or 9 starters from a state championship, runner-up team last year. We knew they were going to be good, and they were. They were very physical. They're very athletic, super well coached. That staff does a great job, getting their guys in a good position. And we knew we had to have some big plays, and we did. Manu stepped up, had the great catch, and then, Tev on the big inside zone run that he sprung and broke for us. And, just unfortunately, we just, didn't have as many big plays down the stretch as they did. And it turned out to be the difference in the ball game.
Yeah. I mean, you had a big pass to Jackson Lieberg, got called back from a holding call. That would have put you in a really good spot. But again, I think all that to say, there were some mistakes, of course, on both sides, offense, defense, and with Bozeman and with Helena High. And it went a lot like a week one game goes.
Yeah, it did. And it, for week one, it was, too many mistakes on, both teams can point to different things that happened on both sides of the ball, and both coaching staffs, are pulling their hair out on Sunday going, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But it was, for a week one game, it was intense. It was physical. It was everything you'd expect in a playoff game, quite frankly. It kind of had that feel to it from a week one standpoint, which was great. For us, that's everything you want and more. Obviously, we want to leave Bozeman with a win, which we didn't. But, man, in terms of prep for our kids and looking ahead to week 2 and beyond, it was very valuable for us. We learned a lot about ourselves and where we're at and what we need to improve upon, and it was a really good learning experience for our kids.
Okay, we're going to ask you first for offense, and then we'll go defense. But I'm going to ask you for a couple positives, and then in the old sales world, we don't say problems, or we say opportunities. So we'll go with some positives and opportunities on the offense.
Yeah, I mean, the big plays were obviously both positive, and then we had the big play to Jax that just gets called back, and then that's probably the takeaway from it, or whatever you want to call it, is just too many mistakes and costly moments like that get you hurt, because we go from having 1st and 10 from the 30 going in to all of a sudden we're backed up, 1st and 20 inside our own red zone. So, those are just, and that wasn't it. That wasn't the only one. I know Carter would like to have the interception back. The first one we run a wrong route. The second one was all on him, and but I thought he settled in and did a nice job. He threw so many good balls in tight windows, and and took some shots, and across the board, there were good things that we did up front at times, and then there were times where maybe we struggled. The Weens kid hurt us a little bit. He's a heck of a football player, the nose guard. Yeah. He flat got after us at times, but there were times where guys stepped up and did a great job up front, and the skill guys in the same boat. We clean up a couple routes and fix a couple alignment assignment things, and boy, we're right in that game. So, yeah. And then defensively, I felt like we flew to the football. Maybe the one thing we didn't do that we knew we needed to is we didn't have a turnover. We didn't take the ball away. We turned the ball over 3 times, and that's probably the difference in the ball game. So, in big games against great teams like that, you just got to button up those little things and try to clean those up as we go forward.
I think the one group that really stood out to me on the defensive side of the ball was the linebacking core.
Sure.
They seem to be everywhere,
yeah,
all over. And I just talked to Kyler Larson actually before I came in here, and I said, "Man, you had a good game," and he did not agree with that. And I think that's good. And then he was able to say, "Well, right. I had a sack and I had a tackle for loss," so he could recognize the positive. But sure. He also saw the room for improvement, and I think. Not just Larson, but the other players you have on your team, whether offense or defense.
Right.
If they're recognizing that they can be better and they're holding themselves to a higher standard, that's got to be great as a coach.
Yeah, that's super positive to hear, because that was the message, and that's across the board, and it starts with the coaching staff and what we did or didn't do to get these guys in a position to be successful. And then there's also an ownership piece from the guys. It's that buy-in to continually want to improve, and not being satisfied leaving Bozeman with a loss, because I don't think any of us were, and we shouldn't be. That's that's why you play the game. So that's positive to hear, and that was and it was every position group we had on the field, offense, defense, special teams. We did some really great things at times, and at times we were our own worst enemy, and those are things that going forward that we have to clean up if we want to win big games.
Really a lot like a week 1 game.
Yeah, exactly. Right? There's so much growth from. Yeah. This is one of my favorite weeks that we're entering now is to see the growth from week 1 to week 2 to into week 3. Football teams change a lot those first 3 or 4 weeks out of the year, and I'm excited for that. Our staff does a great job on Sundays when coming in and putting a game plan together and finding those positive things to build off of, and the negative things that we need to clean up, and we're full steam ahead, looking forward to West.
So I got to ask you about the first 5 games of the season, and maybe I'm overplaying it. I don't know. But when you look at your first 5 games, obviously Bozeman, you have West this week, and then you're on the road for the next 3 weeks. You have Hellgate in the following week, and then you go to Glacier, and then you have week 5 mid-year crosstown.
Yeah.
Technically the road team, it's pretty much a home game at that point. But I really believe that you have the toughest 5 games to start a season. And that's not to say other teams don't have tough schedules. But the first 5 games, being on the road and having that mix in the East, that's a rough go, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's honestly, with this crew that we return and this group that we have, I'd really rather have it no other way. Yeah. Honestly, I love the challenge. Going to Bozeman, playing that team, on their field was everything we'd want more in a week 1 game. Win, lose, or draw, whatever. We knew we were going to learn a lot about ourselves, just like we are this week. This West team is good. They have a lot of good kids. They're very well coached. I know they were in a shootout with Butte that turned into kind of a wild game down the stretch, but I know they're going to reload, and Coach Stanton's going to have them ready to go week 2. Nobody wants to start 0-2, and it doesn't get any easier from that. We go on another road trip to Missoula, and then we head up to Glacier, and they're as good, if not better than advertised, and then it's into Crosstown. So it's a bit of a gauntlet for us, but we're going to come out of it battle tested, and we'll learn a lot about ourselves in the next 4 weeks for sure.
Yeah, and that's not to say the last 4 games are easy games.
No,
they're not easy. It's just you actually have home games.
It's a good stretch. It's
exactly.
tough. It's brutal, and it's exactly what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, we'll let you get to it. I love our new studio.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
It's great. You
Right.
see the locker or the
Yeah.
weightlifting, the volleyball
Got
team
it
is
all.
lifting
I don't even
weights.
know. Yeah, I don't know if anyone even tried to poke their head.
Somebody
in,
came
trying to figure
through.
it out. Somebody did.
I'm
So
going to go
somebody
back
made
on the
air.
video. Someone, it looked like they kicked something or threw something, but we'll find out.
Probably.
We got it on video.
Yeah, who knows?
Do I have any other questions for you? How about one more? Like, it's quiet. It's a Saturday night. What's your go-to TV show or movie?
Well, hopefully the Trojans are playing and I'm watching USC. They were on the dang Pac-12 network this week. I couldn't even get it. Yeah, I just had to follow the. Probably good too because I was having a heart attack through the first half because they were like tied with San Jose State.
USC, typical, amazing offense. Defense is awful.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. We've got to clean it up.
Just as long as they beat Notre Dame.
That's right.
Right, Coach Schulte?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll catch you guys next week. This is Coach Broadhead, and this is John. So have a good one.